Hey gang, Sam here. In this episode of GarageCast, we talked to Dillon Moore from Colorado Motorcycle Adventure. If that name is familiar to you, we had his dad, Kevin Moore, on a couple of years ago when Kevin and Dillon both bought the company. They've made several improvements. The handoff from father to son has been interesting, and they really have deciphered what creates that premium experience and what does that mean internally for their company. So enjoy this episode of GarageCast as we talk to Dillon Moore from Colorado Motorcycle Adventure.
This is a show for anybody that has something that they want to say. It's going to be full of people with a lot of energy, CEOs, OEMs, vendors.
Best practice ideas in this industry and of neighboring industries.
We're talking to people that are on the cutting edge of processes, management.
Serial entrepreneurs, authors. We really have a feast of all different types of senior level people.
A cornucopia, as it were.
A plethora, maybe. Grab a pen, grab a cup of coffee, and have a seat. Start writing. This is GarageCast.
GarageCast. Welcome to GarageCast. Ansler, you have a love affair with this next company, man. This is a very interesting. You spend a lot of time and energy thinking about doing these rides with these guys, and you've done have you done 2 now?
I've done 2. I'll schedule for 3. This is the mistress that you think about. I would love to say that I participate with them on the level that I think about participating with them, but I think the attention is there. So yeah, 3 off-road rides, Colorado and then Utah. I'm sorry, Colorado, then New Mexico. And this was going to be Utah here coming up. But totally excited to have these guys on.
With your experience of 2 years doing it, like, from your perspective, give us an idea of CMA and what it is.
Yeah, Colorado Motorcycle Adventures. I had found these guys a long time ago when I bought my very first adventure motorcycle, 2012, I think it was, a multi-strada. We duded it all out, made it off-road, put TK80 tires on it. I was looking the part, and I'm like, well, I want to go be the part, and the former owner, as I mentioned on a podcast here a couple of years ago, was a guy named Scott, and Scott took us out on a one-day just to river crossing and understanding what an adventure bike really was all about. And so I got totally hooked, and it wasn't until years later that I had the opportunity to go for multi-days with this organization. And we did a podcast with Kevin Moore, who is Dillon, our guest today. It's his father. We did a podcast with him about what CMA was, why he bought it, all that kind of stuff. And then I ended up doing that tour with him. I did the New Mexico tour with him, and I was all set to do the Utah tour with him. And then this stupid leg of mine has me pulling out, but we definitely want to talk to Dillon. So Dillon, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, so Dillon, obviously fresh new set of eyes and some new blood. Not that your dad was old blood, but you're taking this business over. Tell us a bit about CMA and how it got to where it is today, and kind of give the listeners, an idea of exactly what it is that you sell.
Okay. So we're North America's premium rental and tour outfit. We sell experiences to people, something that's once in a lifetime, things that you'll look back on and think about for a long time out. In addition to doing tours, we do our rental fleet, which is the biggest ADV fleet in the US, if not the world, and we have top tier motorcycles from Honda, KTM, Aprilia, BMW, and Royal Enfield. We're actually KTM North America rental partners. We service their rally every year, as well as Aprilia North America rental partners. We've really grown a lot since taking the company over from Scott. We bought it. It had 18 bikes, doing half as many tours a year as we do, and now we've really grown that and seen a lot of growth here over the last 3. And even this year, with the environment the way that it is, it's still been good to us.
Yeah, and that's a lot of why we wanted to get you guys back on, because you've had some internal changes with how do we enhance the experience for the rider that's out there. Taking the reins from your dad. It's not like, and Tony, I probably didn't explain this well enough to you. It's not like Dillon hasn't been involved from the start. He has been. He's just, I didn't get to meet him. He didn't go on that ride. And that day at the coffee shop in Boulder with your dad, Kevin, like he and I just hit it off, talking about business and strategy and taking this thing over. And so I was so excited to see what I thought was him buying the business. He was buying it with Dillon, ultimately for Dillon to take over. So Dillon's been involved now for a long time, but you've really grown this thing a lot. So how did that concept of that premium experience, with a motorcycle tour company, how has it played out now that you've had a couple years at the helm? And tell us a little bit about that handoff from your dad to you. Even though it was you guys together at the start, he was really actively involved that first year. Yeah.
What is the actual product that you guys sell? Because it is, in talking with your dad, talking with other people at CMA, I think it's really good if you paint a picture of, of course you're a rental fleet and you're one of the largest and you do some tours, but what is it that you're selling?
Well, we sell experiences. We sell a turnkey adventure experience. What I always call adventure riding is self-inflicted adversity. So
I like that.
you go out, get stuck in the mud, you're going to have that to talk about forever. You're not going to talk about the sunshine and rainbows that was that super nice and pretty ride necessarily around the campfire drinking some whiskey, right? It's going to be the adversity that you overcame with your buddies, or a lot of father-son groups come out, and that those type of memories is what we really strive to produce for people, and something that they will take with them forever. And then you can just get into the Colorado backcountry and really explore all the beauty that the Western United States has to offer.
Tony, you were talking actually at Dillon, you were just talking about like the stories that you tell around the campfire. And you're right. It's not, you might take a picture of the scenery, which is awe-inspiring in Colorado, and New Mexico is awesome. And, but it's like the fact that I slammed my bike on the ground 4 times. Thank God James was there to help me pick that thing up, or whatever it happens to be. Right. That's the stuff that you remember, and in a sick manner, that's the stuff that brings you back. Like, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do that same climb again. I'm going to make sure I get up to the top of it. But Tony, let me just a little bit about Dillon, because Dillon's actually been in this with his dad, Kevin, from the start. Kevin is the guy that I met out of the gate at a coffee shop when I was looking to see who could really take me adventure bike riding and actually really teach me how to do it well. And Scott had sold the business, and I met Kevin, and he was free, and we went and had coffee. And, as you can tell from the podcast a couple of years ago, he and I just really hit it off, and we're talking about business and motorcycle riding, how addictive motorcycle riding is, all this kind of stuff. Dillon was always in the mix, and Dillon, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that you and your dad bought this business from Scott for the intent of you then taking this thing over, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and you had just talked about that premium experience and how it plays out with the motorcycle tour company. So as there's a couple reasons we brought you back on, or you on CMA back onto this podcast, and one is that transition that's happened over the past couple of years from your dad. The other one is, how has the definition of a premium tour company changed? And you guys have had some significant growth. So talk to us a little bit, that handoff from a very savvy entrepreneurial father to you, and how easy was that to take the reins, and how active is he now?
Sure. It was certainly an experience. I've been in rental my entire life, basically, back when we had the heavy equipment company. So rentals just kind of been in my blood, but the whole touring thing was a brand new aspect. I Kevin and I bought the company, right? And he focused mainly on getting us squared away in order for me to be able to take over day-to-day operations. From the beginning, I was doing day-to-day ops, and then learning the back end, more strategic looks and sides of it that came from all of his entrepreneurial experience. It was quite a fire hose, to be honest with you, learning just the reins of operating a business that is so hard hitting during such a short span of time during our actual season. But it was a fast learning experience, sink or swim kind of thing. We definitely swam, and we've come out to really change what people actually get from us. It was more take care of yourself while offering like premium destinations, but now we have much more high level supporting on our tours. For example, we port luggage from one place to another. You get to the hotel, your bags are sitting in the room waiting for you. Just that kind of white glove experience is what we aim to provide. So white glove with dirt on them, basically.
It is so good, Tony, when you just roll in and you're so beat up from the day and the sag wagon opens up. There's a couple of extra bikes they keep in there in case somebody needs an extra bike or whatever. But more importantly, they keep a giant cooler full of cold, cold beer. And you just sit around. Nobody even goes into the hotel yet. You sit around, have a beer. And by the time you make it to your hotel room, to Dillon's point, like the bags are there. And it's like, this is amazing. So I can imagine that was a little overwhelming, just jumping in right from the go. And a question that maybe we should have asked in the first question in the opening was like, what were you doing before this? Because this is a whole big thing to wrangle if you've never done the kind of work that your dad's been into through the years.
So I worked at Vans Equipment with Dad for a decade, and I did everything from wash bay to deliveries to front desk, inside sales, all of that. Vans Equipment was a heavy equipment rental company, a big dirt moving stuff.
Little bit
So
different clientele than what you're working with now.
yeah, you got pissed off people going to work or happy people going on vacation. Little bit different. So it was a great change, breath of fresh air when it did happen. But rentals are rentals. It could be patio furniture, it could be a wacky wavy inflatable arm man or motorcycles. They all kind of track in the same way. The tour aspect is what was really different for me, and that took a lot to learn about, basically.
Hey, Dylan, you're talking about that white glove experience and things that you have done. You took away a lot of you removed a lot of the friction points. So walk us through kind of how you got to that point from the initial interest in taking on a tour like this till I'm done, I'm loading up my bike or handing the bike back to you guys. How did you identify those friction points and what were some of them?
So we kind of went after the friction points of where the customer spends too much time just standing in front of us, right? So in the beginning of our reservation flow process, it's online waivers, prepayment, things that allow us to not have to do paperwork while someone's standing there. Like they just got off a 14-hour flight from England. The last thing you want to do is read a 5-page contract on a motorcycle. You could have done that on your flight, right? So they send us their waivers all filled out. We can get them typically out the door in about 15 minutes, including a breakdown on the bike, which we know in and out, go through all the riding modes, that type of thing. So the speed of getting people in and out of the office in the morning, especially because everybody wants to show up right when we open, was very important because, you get 3 groups in at the same time. And the original process took very long and was quite cumbersome. And so the third group would be just standing there for an hour, So we really wanted to remove that just waiting period, basically. And that's been really good for us, especially in dealing with the front end. We also have removed friction from our damage perspective, which is full transparency with photos of the bikes before they go out, and just a transparent billing process along the way. On tour, we've removed the friction points of having to deal with your own luggage. We do require that the luggage has wheels on it now, though. That's a new thing. And then having that spare bike in case something happens to be it your fault or our fault, whatever happens out on the trail there, having a spare machine so you get to complete your ride. Because there's nothing worse than knocking your bike out, and it was day 2 of day 7 or 7 days, and it's kind of unfortunate. And then after, again, back to the billing thing, that's something that I've really tried to remove is damage billing, and I've tried really hard at it. We invest a lot of money up front into the crash protection on the motorcycles to not have to have that conversation, like bark busters, double take mirrors, and rear and front lower skid plates, things like that, and rear side pannier racks, specifically to avoid damage to the muffler and exhaust systems, which, when those get pretty dinged up, that's a, $500,000 bill that you just got. So I actually haven't built any exhaust this year, which has been great. It has been a little bit of a loss of a revenue stream, but a much more higher customer experience.
Yeah, that's just thinking back to when you guys first started doing that. Like, how do we remove the pain points in our 20 clubs, Tony? You know, we talk about how we remove friction all the time, right? And these guys went through this whiteboard, like every touch point of a customer. How do we remove friction from each one of those? And you're hearing some of those solutions. What I wrote down was transportation, or their inbound transportation, just making that as painless when they get here to sign the contracts. The tour itself, the spare machine, which has been used every tour I've been on, that spare machine, as opposed to somebody going home, right? And then the post-damage waiver. All of that just makes somebody like, yeah, I showed up, had a great ride, and then I got to go home, and I didn't have this tail on the tail on the front, if that's a thing, and the tail on the back, if that's a thing. And Tony, you know how many marine dealers that we have that do rentals? They have a whole rental fleet. And I just think this is a great opportunity, from where you said you were whiteboarding this to look at all the touch points, to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different solutions that are now in play, from figuring out how do we make that easier for the customer. Every one of our organizations, every one of our clients out there can learn from that. Just take the time on the front to figure out where those pain points are, and then you've obviously been able to implement some of those along the way, Dillon, which I think is great. Whenever there's somebody playing with, I don't want to say playing in a dealer space. We are very dealer centric. We are committed to the health of the dealership. So when we have vendors, if you will, who are always looking to sell their product, our question is, well, is it dealer centric, right? Or is it dealer focused? We're dealer advocates first. So, but you guys are playing with both the OEMs, you're playing with dealers, and you're playing with your own touring company. It's your rentals and your tours that make the money, right? But tell us how all three of those entities play nicely together.
Well, so I mean, we kind of see it as a dealer triangle, right? So you've got your OEMs, you have us over here, and then you have the dealerships themselves. We get our bikes direct from the OEMs through the dealership, so they get all the setup and things that go into them prior to actual delivery. In that relationship, KTM's getting more butts and seats to just sell bikes. That can be fed. We have a lot that can be fed back to the dealerships. We have a lot of international guys or out of state guys, so it might not be the local guys down the street that they go and buy the bikes from, but they've just had this week-long experience on a Aprilia or a KTM 890, and well, you can bet that they're going to go home and buy one if they don't have one. They want to upgrade from their KLR that they got sitting in the garage from the 80s. So
hey, was Luke listening, Tony? Was Luke listening to that KLR dig right there? I think it's about time.
And then on our side, the OEs will put us forward. Like, we now are collabing on Instagram posts. We get to go to their rallies and support rentals at their events. Like, we're going to be up in Breckenridge at the KTM North America rally here in a couple weeks. I've rented every single KTM that I have. I've got 18 of them in the fleet, and they're all going. So that's more. It's really comes down to butts and seats sell bikes, and butts and seats sell rentals. That's what we want to do. And then we actually can pass that information back along to the OEs if they don't uncheck the box, right? And then with the dealer and us relationships, we have to get our parts through someone still. So we buy all these parts for damages. And then we also have a couple rental test ride programs set up. So a client from, let's say, Imperial Sport Bikes down downtown Denver here, can send a customer over to us to do a rental test ride program. Well, they'll rent up to 2 days from us, get that receipt, and go back to the dealership, and they can get that money off MSRP of a new bike, but they've just had a real test ride on it, out taking it through some water crossings and stuff like that, and really experiencing the machine for what it's made for, and not just ripping it around the parking lot or around the block a couple times.
Well, and I tell you, that's a real thing, right? Because you guys, when I went both times, we were talking KTM, and on that second ride in New Mexico, our lead guide Ash had moved from a KTM to a Touareg, to an Aprilia Touareg. And he's like, oh man, this is the bike. And then Kevin, your dad was riding that Touareg on that trip. And then I know several guys from my trip that went and bought a Touareg from their local dealer as a result of that. So you can see how when it's set up correctly, it is everybody's winning in that little triangle situation. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. We're also working on expanding our reach and making us known to these other dealerships that are around the country, by trying to get them into this same rental test ride program, as well as I'd like to start launching a somewhat of an affiliate program for the sales reps at dealerships. So send us a client, get 20% off the top kind of thing, and everybody's happy. And then potentially that client comes back and buys a motorcycle from you too.
Yeah, I like
Right
that.
on.
Yeah. Hey, Dillon. So, how have you guys grown in the past 2 years? Give us some ideas on that.
So I mean, in the beginning, just adding bikes, trying to get more of a smaller fleet, smaller displacement, smaller seat height fleet to accommodate those vertically challenged individuals that are out there. Because adventure bikes are just so tall. The OEMs have kind of caught on to we need to make some shorter stuff for a vast section of the market, but they haven't got there yet. I think that they actually, since they're European, everybody grows up on a scooter or something like that. So having 1 foot down if you're a short individual isn't that big of a deal in the European market. But in the US market, you have these people that haven't really been on motorcycles. So if they don't have 2 feet firmly planted on the ground, they feel a little unstable, right? Um, but the OEs, I think, are finally catching on to the fact that they need some shorter form adventure bikes. And so we've been trying to buy those. And over the last couple years, we've added 8 short bikes to the fleet. And then we have some shorter, the like 890 Adventures, not the R model, are shorter to the ground too. And we have 5 of those as well, but they're kind of that mid range. That's really what we've been focusing on, is getting new riders into the industry. Everybody wants to go out and ride, but they're scared of these big bikes. So we want something more friendly that they can go and actually tackle some dirt on. Other than that, we've launched a service department here in November, as more of a outfitting upgrades kind of department, with partnerships with like SW Motec, for example, for all the crash protection upgrades. We can do lighting and that type of thing too. We'll take on repairs and whatever else we need to do in the interim, but that's our primary focus. We know what breaks on these things. We know how to defend them, and we know how to make them pretty well dialed in.
Nice. Very
And
nice.
it's funny, you were talking about the smaller bikes. I had the 890 Adventure R for a while, which, to your point, you just said not the R, because the R is a tall bike. And then I got the Rally. And Tony, for perspective, like I'm almost 6'2", and I have a custom lowered seat on the Rally, and I'm still on my tiptoes on this bike, right? It's just like I think there's a flip side to this, which is when it's small enough, you're like, oh, I can save it from going down. But maybe I don't want to save it. Maybe I don't want to break my ankle or my leg. Maybe I just want to throw it on the ground. So if it's too tall, I just jump off the thing every single time. But you can't sometimes do that. I mean, I know KTM's got a 390 coming out, right? Or they had a 390 that got an improved 390 on the way, but you can't necessarily do that with the brands you had. So you've taken on some other brands as well as just some more bikes in your service department, yeah?
Yeah. We don't have necessarily rental partner relationships with these brands, but we have diversity of the fleet for sure. Honda makes a really great lowered entry level bike. It's the CRF 300 LS, and those are extremely popular. If you're 5'5", you have an adventure bike that you can ride. In addition, you have to have your granddaddy of the adventure world, the BMWs, right? And then the Himalayans, the new Himalayans that came out this year. So we brought on Royal Enfield as well. We kind of look to YouTube to tell us what the people want, and then try to bring in a pair of those bikes if it pencils for us.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I loved about your service department is you really do some amazing tours. And my question to you has to do with that. But if I'm in Japan and I'm wanting to come to a tour in America, and the bike's already there, or I can ship you my bike, or I can buy the bike from you. If you're the guys doing the service with all these with all the P&A accessories, I can have you deck that thing out. So by the time I land, this thing is all ready to go. or I'm done with my tour and I can leave it with you and you can deck it out with all the stuff that I didn't have and then send it back. I think that's cool. But they have to find you first, particularly if they're in another
Yes.
country. We talk about this in our 20 clubs as well. The first thing you have to do is be found, and then you can field the digital lead that comes in on the backside of that. So tell us a little bit about how you're found. Is it hard for you to be found, and what's your social media presence look like?
I mean, that's our problem, right? It's just being found. It's the most difficult thing that we try to deal with, and that's why we're really pushing all avenues. Having these big OEM relationships is helping that substantially, but really it's just dumping cash into Google spend, and that's been the most successful thing for us. Which
Or has
isn't great
it?
because it's not it has, yeah, but it's not super targeted, right? It's kind of throw it at the wall and see what works.
Mm-hmm.
But I've started running ads in different languages. Like, for example, I have Spanish ads running in South America, so that kind of helps to bring people in, and I can track that stuff, and it's been working pretty well. But that is the problem. If everybody knew that we were out there, there would be no issue. All of the bikes would be gone all the time, and it'd be great. But we're trying to partner with the dealerships around the US, and to get that in their mind that there is something out on the West Coast, or not the West Coast, the Western Mountain States, to actually be able to send clients to and have them experience riding an adventure bike where it should be ridden.
Yeah, with those international guests, is there some way to, put some incentive for them? Because I think a lot of people who ride with you are going to come back and ride with you, and already have come back to ride with you, right? So when that group from Japan or Australia or wherever goes home, is there some incentive for them to come back or to tell all their friends about that and come back? Maybe there's a bump off of their price when they come back, or if they bring a friend or something like that. I think you can leverage the people who have been out there before.
Well, so I've kind of started doing this. There's nothing really written down for it, but there's always a ringleader to these groups, right? There's always the guy that actually gets it done, our point of contact, when we're chasing down waivers and things like that. Like, hey, your dude Jimmy hasn't done this. Can you get him to fill out the forms for us? And so with that one ringleader, what I've been doing is being like, you bring me 5 guys, I'll give you your bike for free. And so they are motivated to bring a big group for them, and they'll just go tell all their buddies. And we've had a couple groups this year come through like that internationally, so it's been working.
Yeah.
Hey, Dillon, when does your season end?
It ends when the snow falls. So out here in Colorado, it's ending in the beginning of October. Typically, people start to get cold feet about having reservations that late out in the year. That being said, we'll still see if the weather's been nice, we'll see just like last minute, couple day out, long-term rentals. People will just be like, all right, looks good, let's go for a week. And they come and they pick them up. We try to expand our season a lot by running these fly and ride events, which is something that I've really pushed since purchasing the company. And that's where, to add to our turnkey experience, you get to fly into a specific spot where there's a rally or something going on. The fleet will be waiting for you at the event, and you can just fly in. Sometimes we'll set up a shuttle, bring you down to the event, grab your keys, ride for 3-4 days, whatever it is, bring us the bike back, fly home. You don't have to drive through Nebraska or Kansas. You get to come in, come out, and all of us are so busy. So that extra drive time is just a big pain point too. So yeah, that's been helping us to expand our shoulder season, and that's where we've really been focusing as of late. We do that early on as well with a big ride down in Bisbee, Arizona. It's the Desert Adventure Rally. Typically, I'll bring like 70% of the fleet. That's a logistical dance of 4 or 5 trucks and a lot of trailers, and
That's like 42 bikes or something you have in inventory?
Yeah, last year, 42 is what we got in inventory. Last year I took 30 to Bisbee.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah, I need a semi.
That's funny. I'm just hung up. Yeah, you need a semi. Ask your dad if that semi pencils before you just go get one.
Right.
That's funny. You talk about so you don't have to drive through Kansas or Nebraska. For any of us who have driven a motorcycle through Kansas or Nebraska, you're like, yeah, I get that. I try to probably try to avoid that too. Instead, just flat and straight, right? But it does make me think. Your dad at one point had talked about, that another organization, BMW, has a riding academy for adventure motorcycles. I don't know if we touched on it on that podcast, like creating a compound, and you guys have an adventure bike riding. So that's part of my question. And independent of the adventure bike, like what about ATVs or UTVs and doing some tours as it goes into the winter? Not necessarily winter in Colorado, but doesn't that help with the shoulder season if you guys would put some attention towards those activities as well?
Yeah, so we've looked into the training aspect. It's really just getting that figured out. That whole training thing is as we've learned over the last couple of years, is a monster in and of itself. That's a very damage heavy industry too, so that kind of adds problems when it comes to keeping the fleet in pristine condition. That being said, we've been talking to KTM about potentially doing something with them in terms of training, because they don't have a North America training center. Neither does Aprilia. Aprilia does their MotoGP stuff, but nothing adventure focused.
Hey, what about I mean, side by sides, ATVs? I mean, if we're talking apples to apples, I mean, and I'm just throwing stuff out there. I would Baja or anything in the desert. I don't know if it's still too cold in the winter down there, or if you're just not trying to battle issues in Mexico or.
Nah, not really. We actually are running a Baja pavement tour this season. So, and we did our first one last year. We don't want to do the ADV stuff down there. It's just too hard to rescue and support when you're across the border. And then also, if there was something medically to happen out on trail, like that's a world of hurt. So we stick to the pavement down there. It's a culinary margarita experience with motorcycles in between.
Yes, that's awesome.
So we'll run that in February. We'll launch we're switching it. We launched out of Palm Springs last year, and now we're doing San Diego. San Diego. That's down south. And gonna go down. It's a 7-day loop in Baja. As far as like the side by sides and ATVs and snowmobiles and timber sleds, definitely have thought about it. Our space is super limited at the shop, so we don't even work on side by sides or ATVs at the moment because A, the lift isn't big enough, and B, they take up this, like one side by side takes up the space of like 5 motorcycles, right? So we just physically don't have the storage capacity for it. I did think about doing sleds and timber sleds. The only problem
now you're
with
talking, Dillon.
Timber sleds.
Now you're talking.
Tell our audience what timber sleds are for the non-power sport listener.
They're for sissies that can't ride snowmobiles, is what they are.
They're the most fun you can have on the snow, in my opinion.
No, you're crazy.
It's a jet ski compared to a snowmobile, which you could consider a boat. But so timber sleds are basically a snow bike. It's a dirt bike with a ski in the front and a track in the back, and they're very nimble in the powder. Not so great on the groomers though. But we have these bikes that could potentially be outfitted. Looked into it quite a bit and decided that I want the reliability of my motorcycles in the summer versus trying to tag team them with basically 2 products in one during the winter. Because you kind of just sit at rev. Yeah, you sit at rev limiter with the timber sleds all the time, just brapping them out. So when you go and convert them back to a street bike, they're not too happy. Exactly. Snowmobiles, I've definitely thought about. I love them. I'm going to get one this season, but the competition up in the mountains just where the rental companies already are up there, I'd have to come in at such a low price point and also have a place to store these sleds, as well as have trailers on site then for people to actually be able to get them from Denver. If I was
I agree
operating,
with I agree with a lot of your statement. There's part of your statement that I think what would make you different is, so the rental companies up here just offer the rental. Here it is,
Mhm.
go take it. You're offering that experience, right? So you're offering, whether it be
Tour.
lodging, it's, Dancer talks about drinking and dinner. And I've actually been to one of your dinners when you pass through Steamboat. So it's, the group dinner, you definitely would be offering more than just a rental. And that's really what's up here. So I don't know if that
okay.
selfishly, I'd love to partake for 3 days.
You guys figure out the tour part, Dillon, and Tony will get the the snowmobiles housed for you, waiting for you up there. So
Yeah, you just keep all your you keep all your snowmobiles right here on my property, no problemo,
Right.
and I'll promise that they have fuel and oil going through them.
There's something there. They're gonna have a lot of hours on them by the time you see them, but there's something there.
Yeah,
you guys
right.
should work through. Yeah, I just sit here and think about, you guys do road tours in Colorado as well. We always talk about the off-road tours, but you have adventurous road motorcycling tours as well. And I've told people for years, the greatest thing I ever bought in the motorcycle industry was heated gear. 20 years ago, I bought a set of Gerbing's heated gear, and I can go 11 months out of the year on a street bike in Colorado. So maybe not 11, but you could supply everybody with heated gear, and you could have some pretty cool adventures in the winter where, you're showing up at some of these resorts before they open, and they're dying for people to come there, and, you have the place to yourself. That might be something to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We do offer a lot of rental gear already, so adding heated stuff to that mix wouldn't be anything out of the wheelhouse at all. That's
just
that's
something to think about for some seasonal stuff. Okay, gang. Look, I want to talk about the Utah trip in October, the one that's not on your website, the one that nobody knew about because it was a little covert operation that happened on the heels of our New Mexico trip. Tell us a little bit about that trip coming up. And rumor has it there may be 2 slots available for anyone listening right now. There may be 2 slots still available. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. We had 2 unfortunately open up due to some issues, but yeah, there's 2 available for our Utah BDR trip. It launches out of Salt Lake and returns to Salt Lake City, and yeah, it's a 7-day ride through Mars, basically.
Guys,
I definitely
go ahead, finish that.
I definitely consider Moab the Mars of America. It doesn't require a SpaceX rocket to get there, but you can go check it out for yourself.
So I am shamelessly pushing this to our listeners out there because I am one of the 2 that had to cancel because of this stupid leg of mine. And all summer I was taking my buddy who bought my 890. I was going to take him out riding adventure motorcycles so that he and I could go on this trip together, 7 days off-road through Utah. And because of his inexperience and because I'm just not able to, I don't trust my leg at this point to do something like that. Dillon was kind enough to let us defer to a different time, but those 2 slots are available, and I'm telling you what, 7 days in Utah, you would not be disappointed. Dillon, you guys have everything the average person needs, right? They just need to have a fundamental ability to ride a motorcycle.
Yep, fundamental ability to ride a motorcycle with a little bit of dirt experience. I would definitely probably err on the side of having more dirt experience for this ride. It's more of an intermediate to advanced ride. We do have bypasses and things like that if you feel that you're in over your head, but Utah is just such a fantastic place to go and explore. It's
well, and no, I love the bypasses. Just to elaborate a little bit on what that is, because I took 2 of them on the Colorado trip when I was like, I'm in over my head. Right? What are the bypasses?
Yeah, so we have easy roundabout ways to get to the next destination, which are gorgeous, beautiful. Typically, they'll be paved or light dirt. So if you get into over your head on the more intermediate advanced stuff, you can bail out and go around. And that way you still get to come and experience the tour, and you've also had an awesome ride that day, even though it wasn't the puckering factor that you were having earlier on the trail. You got to get some throttle out and had that throttle therapy regardless. So
some of these could be a 2-hour diversion, and some of them were like a 10-minute diversion, right? You don't want to go down that rocky face. Here's a little dirt trail that goes around it. We meet up at the exact same spot at the bottom. So don't be, if you're thinking there's no way you can handle it. I thought that too until I went on that first Colorado BDR back road discovery route. And I mean, these are such cool rides. So I would love to have those get filled for Dillon. So if you could help me out, help him out, it would make me feel better about having to bail on that. Dillon, tell them where they go to sign up and how they go to sign up.
Yeah, so all of our tours are listed on our website, coloradomotorcycleadventures.com, but this Utah tour is not currently up on the site, so give us a call at 720-505-2030, and I'll give you all the information, send you a packet on it and stuff like that if you're interested. So,
well, my final thing I'm going to say on that is it's not up on the website because the group that I went with in Colorado, we had so much fun and so much camaraderie. We decided we were going to go again in New Mexico, same group. And we booked it right then at the end of the trip. And we did the exact same thing this time. So it wasn't one of their scheduled trips. It was one of the one-offs. And I say that only because the experience that you're going to have with these other people, like these guys were on a WhatsApp chat list, and it's going to keep going. It's just going to keep going. And you're going to make some really cool friends. So on that, done with my shameless plug. Tony, anything you had to add here to Dillon before we bug out?
Way to ruin the ride. I mean, there you go, Dantzler. They're all waiting for you. Like, it was this great camaraderie in a group, and you ruined the ride.
I did. I put a heartfelt text out on that string, too. It pissed me off that I had to do it, but it's all right.
You'll be back. Next year. Next year.
That's
all
right.
Hey, Dillon, thank you so much, man, for spending some time with us again. Best of luck to you, and I'm really going to be looking at the website, looking to see which snowmobiles you're going to put up on your website soon.
Yeah, and street rides with heated gear. I'm in.
There you go.
That's right. Thanks a bunch for having me. This has been fun. It's the first podcast ever, but yeah, you guys made it great, so I appreciate it.
Hopefully not your last. Hopefully
yeah,
not.
you did a great job, man.
Right on. For Dillon Moore and Sam Dantzler, I'm Tony Gonzalez. This has been GarageCast. Have a fantastic Tuesday, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.